If you've always dreamt of opening your own cafe, make sure you stay tuned and watch this video because I'm going to talk to you about why most cafes fail and, more importantly, what you need to do to make sure you're a success. Hi, I'm Rowena. I'm a food consultant based in Sydney, Australia, and over the years I have worked with literally hundreds of cafes and restaurants to either help them set up and start their businesses or help them to really realise the full potential of the business by skyrocketing their sales. In recent years, cafe culture has absolutely exploded all around the world. Cafes have become synonymous with community hubs, places where people go to socialise, to just unwind and have some peace and quiet, and even work. How many times have you been to your local cafe and there are people sitting up there with laptops and iPads or have headsets on and are doing Zoom calls? They have become the centre of our communities. So as a result, it is absolutely not surprising that so many people are dreaming about owning their own cafe. But do they really know what's involved? And do they know how few actually succeed? If you're based in Australia, for argument's sake, most cafes operate on a less than 10% profit margin. Yes, you heard that right, less than 10%. That is a lot of hard work for very little reward. And did you also know that across Australia, over 65% of cafes actually fail within the first 3 years of operations? That is not a good success rate. So first of all, we're going to start by telling you why most cafes actually fail, and then we'll go into the steps that you need to learn to make sure you're a success. I always find it so sad when cafes go out of business. They are such hard work. People put their heart and soul and often their life savings into these businesses. So why do so many fail? Well, from our discussions with operators, the number one reason why cafes fail, and there are so many reasons, but the one that we hear over and over again is people just run out of cash. Why do they run out of cash? They've overestimated sales before they even start. Their fit-out costs have been a lot higher than they expected. That really great piece of equipment they purchased has broken down in the past 3 weeks, every week consecutively, and they've racked up thousands of dollars of maintenance bills that they hadn't foreseen. What happens is they often have the bones of a great business, but before the business can get truly started with a steady stream and reliable sales coming in through the door, they've just run out of cash and they can't prop the business up for long enough for it to stabilize and become a success. Okay, the second reason we're hearing for people failing is because the industry is just so competitive. By virtue of numbers, there are just so many more cafes these days than there ever has been before. So unique concepts are absolutely essential. You don't want to compete head on. You need to have something that is completely different for an area that the area will support, and we'll get into that later, for your cafe to survive. And the third top reason we find that cafes go out of business is because they just simply don't know their numbers. They don't understand why they can be busy, customers are coming through the door, they're trading well, but at the end of the month they have nothing left. They don't understand how much money it is costing them simply to operate the business. We'll get into that a little bit later, but when it comes down to it, you must understand your numbers. Otherwise, by the time rent is paid, wages are paid, and your cost of goods sold are all paid, you actually have no money left at the end of the day. Before we go on, why do you think a lot of cafes go out of business? I'm sure you've driven past your local shops, cafes there 1 minute, the next time you drive past, it's gone. So pop your thoughts in the comments before, and let's look at some of the reasons why you think a lot of cafes are simply going out of business. Okay, so we've discussed our top 3 reasons why most cafes fail. Now let's talk about what it takes to be a success. Now, our number one recommendation is develop a really unique concept so you are not competing head on with every other cafe in your local area. As I said, it's really competitive. So one way you can compete is indirectly. Come up with a unique concept. But here's the thing, the concept has to be right for the trade area. There is no point developing a concept that's weird and wonderful or something that you think is fabulous if no one in the local area is going to support it. So for example, look at the demographics of the trade area. What is it that people are wanting and what is missing? Now, an option might be a vegan cafe. More and more people turning to vegan and vegetarian lifestyles, but still there are very few truly vegan or vegetarian cafe concepts around. But as I said, make sure that you actually look at the trade area and make sure that there are people in that area that are looking for that type of cafe concept and who will support you. Now, another trick is your concept has to be not only unique, but every element of your concept has to fit. So when you're developing your concept, you have to think about your branding, uniforms, fit out, menu, your pricing. It all has to be in keeping with the concept you have developed. Otherwise, it's going to be piecemeal. It's got to be congruent and cohesive to really work. Okay, our second top tip for success is don't overspend on rent. Now, this is really just so common. If you are planning to spend more than 15% of your estimated sales on rent, you are going to get yourself into financial trouble. Really, you need to be looking at multiple locations who are priced within your budget and walk away if you cannot negotiate the rent down to be below 15% of your estimated sales. Okay, our third top tip for creating a successful cafe has to be keeping your startup costs really lean. Now, it's called a lean startup for a reason. Don't be one of those people that goes and spends hundreds of thousands of dollars on a really expensive fit out. You haven't even started making any money yet, but yet people commit to these high-end fit outs. And let's face it, all small business, whether it's a cafe or not, has a significant element of risk. Go lean. Look for good quality second-hand equipment. Look to call in favors and try and do a lot of the work yourself in terms of the fit out. For design options, here is a great recommendation. Go on to Pinterest and sites like that for some creative and excellent, innovative design ideas that you can replicate yourself. So start lean, especially before you're making any money at all. Creating a successful cafe has to be to really understand your pricing, know your numbers, make sure every single menu item has an adequate profit margin. There is absolutely no point in selling products that actually cost you money. That people are selling menu items for low cost, and that is the quickest way to go out of business. I even see it with promotions, people doing 2-for-1 deals or heavily discounted menu items to get people into the door. But that's the problem, you get them in the door, and unless you're upselling and actually going to make money out of them, they cost you money. At the end of the month, you will have nothing left. So every menu item needs to have an adequate margin, and all marketing efforts need to have a strong return on investment. Otherwise, you're going out of business. Okay, tip number 5 is all about the concise menu. Now, I never understand when you go into a cafe and you have a menu that reads like a book. The more extensive the menu is, the higher the number of ingredients, the more suppliers you're dealing with, less kitchen efficiencies. Think of all the training that goes into each one of those menu items being able to be prepared by your kitchen staff consistently every single time. Go lean. Have a short, concise menu. Less ingredients means less cost and less waste. Now, a lot of people will say a good chef worth his weight in gold is able to churn out 20 menu items from 10 key ingredients. So think about that when you're developing your menu. You'll have lots of ideas and things that you might like to organise and to prepare, but it's not the way to go. Simply develop a concise menu that your target market actually want. Give people what they want, and you'll know that through feedback and through research. Tips and tricks on operating your own cafe, restaurant or other food business, make sure you subscribe and you'll be notified every time we drop a new video. If you're just starting out, we have developed a great list of success hacks for you that I think you'll find truly helpful, so make sure you download on the link below and receive a PDF with a list of great success hacks to try and help you along your journey of opening or starting a successful cafe. This video, make sure you subscribe and receive weekly notifications every time we drop a new video. You can also find us on Facebook, where we're often posting additional helpful hints and hacks to help make that food business that you've been dreaming of opening a success. Thank you for your time, and reach out if we can be of help in any way.